Nepal is a nation that has a tremendous pull on the hearts of my wife and I and all of our ministry team as we're based in Thailand and we look across to the far sides of Asia to this people that sense that they are so left out and so abandoned because of a destiny in their heart that's yet to be fulfilled.
The history of Nepal is a compelling account of kingdoms and dynasties that rose and fell under thousands of years of war. Sporadic ceasefires under unifying leaders have ultimately given way to corruption, chaos, and extreme poverty, and has left modern society without purpose or opportunity on the world stage. Generations of resistance to the gospel has produced generations of poverty and oppression. Nepal is one of the poorest and least developed countries in the world. Less than 50% of adults are literate, and nearly half live below the poverty line. The overwhelming majority in Nepal follow Hinduism. It is the only official Hindu state in the world. Hinduism worships 1 million gods, is formed of diverse traditions with no unified system of beliefs, and has no single founder. One basic concept in Hinduism is karma, which translates literally as action, work, or deed, and which can be described as the moral law of cause and effect. Karma is the sum of good and bad deeds and determines how you will live your next life. Through religious rituals and enough good deeds, one may have a chance to be reborn at a higher level of society. Bad deeds can cause a person to be reborn as a lower level or even as an animal. The unequal distribution of wealth, prestige, and suffering are thus seen as natural consequences for one's actions in previous lives. This causes Hindus to engage in religious rituals on a daily basis. Purification, usually with water, is a typical feature of most religious action. Nepal is home to the largest Shiva temple in the world, and the water in front of the temple is considered holy. So thousands flock to the site daily to bathe themselves and their animals in the holy water. They also drink from it, wash their clothes, and even bury their dead in it. Waterborne disease is rampant, but religious conviction and duty forces these people God has created in His image to undergo such degrading acts to try to wash away their sin.
A third of Nepal's population live under the poverty level in this very obviously destitute, poor country. When you travel through the nation, you see thousands of people sitting around, not working. You see fields that are uncultivated, and yet these same fields could produce the food for these same hungry people who don't know what to do about their hunger. You see in the mountains crops of marijuana and things like that growing because those are the cash crops that you know, drug warlords and so on will plant or promote the people to plant. It's just a really messed up situation. But we really have a heart for these people, because when you look into their eyes, your heart breaks when you realize that God has created these people with a glorious inheritance, with a glorious destiny, and yet somehow they have a very difficult time discovering that destiny. I remember the first trip that we went into Nepal, there was such a mourning in the hearts of the people there. You know, they would like kind of have this cry and this longing to return to something that they've lost, and yet they themselves aren't really sure what it is that they've lost. When you look at the country, actually more Nepalese people live outside the country of Nepal than live inside, and that's amazing. They're scattered all across Asia. I think there's more in India than there are in Nepal. There's lots of them in Thailand, in Burma, in Malaysia, pockets of Nepalese people, and they're like a lost people longing to go back to their, not only their homeland, but to their destiny. And so God stirs in our hearts every time we go in there that He has a destiny, He has a purpose for these amazingly beautiful, wonderful people. And yet we see them bowing their backs spiritually under this load of oppression, a heavy oppression that keeps them down. And you know, this nation, when you look at it, is one of the most beautiful countries physically in the whole world. It starts high in the Himalayas, and of course they've got the highest mountain in the world, and it runs right down into some of the lowest valleys, beautiful tropical paradises in lower Nepal. And in fact, Nepal has the greatest potential for hydroelectric production in the world. Isn't that amazing? And yet when you're in Kathmandu, the main city, the lights are going off and on, off and on. We went to our hotel and we had to use matches to get up the stairwell because the power is so sporadic and so unreliable. Yet there's this potential. Here we're looking at a people that have a tremendous potential to do something great, to be something great, a nation that could be one of the greatest nations in the world as far as producing hydroelectricity, producing food, and a lot of other things. These are very clever people, very good with their hands. Yet we see this oppression. The enemy has a goal, he has a plan to keep people down, to keep them from rising up to what God has called them to do. But today, as we're looking at Nepal, you know, let our hearts break and say, God, we need to keep going into this nation. We need to keep fighting for this nation, pushing our way into this nation, into the hearts of these men and women, because we know that Jesus Christ has the answer for them. The gospel has the answer that will cause them to begin to think in new terms, begin to see new horizons, begin to see new vision and new destiny, new dreams for their lives. And you know, the potential that the gospel has in a country like this that's living so far below their potential gets me excited, because here we have a fight worth fighting, a battle worth winning for these awesome people.
7 weeks in Asia.
Yeah, it's pretty much rained here every day, sometimes hard, sometimes soft.
Tired?
I hiked for, what was it, like 6 hours to speak to a single village for just a short while.
Where I'm ministering in the Yafu Church.
Not very relaxing, but it's really fun. You kind of have to hang on tight.
The train ride was awful.
This is going to change your perspective on life itself. And through that, you're going to change your own life.
7 weeks in Asia.
In 2004, a Nepalese pastor saw our website and he contacted us, and I was excited about that because when my wife and I remember back to 1980, we were in Malaysia and there was a prophetic word that we would end up in Nepal, and that really stirred something in our hearts for this wonderful nation. Of course, when we look at any new nation, we're really thinking about the church planting strategy that's worked so awesomely in all the other countries, basically to go in and meet with men and women of integrity and begin to form a family, you know, like a spiritual adoption relationship with them, so that